So there is the potential of a great storyline in the NFL next year because according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Ezekiel Elliott hopes to make a decision on where he signs by late next week, and he's narrowed down to 3 teams: the Bengals, the Jets, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Please be the Philadelphia Eagles just for the storyline of him having to play the Cowboys twice a year. Please let it be the Philadelphia Eagles. You all in on Philly or what? Let's do this.
I mean, I think, like you said, it creates for an interesting storyline. But, I mean, how much of an impact is he going to have on the game? I mean, he hasn't had a real impact on a game since he's got his new contract. So I don't, it's like if you're bringing him in to be a situational back, short yardage type of deal, maybe pass pro sets where he's blocking and protecting the quarterback. But I just got to be honest with you. I don't even know that he's – man, I sound like a hater, and I don't want to sound like a hater. But I don't even know if he's good enough to be a relevant story in terms of if he went to a team like Philadelphia. And they other than this, Jonas, I will say this. Information. Now, that might make it interesting in terms of the exchange of conversations, but Kellen Moore's gone. So I don't know how much of the playbook is even going to be a playbook that Mike McCarthy is going to use for this season. I don't know. But I would almost feel like that would be the only storyline of note is the familiarity of the offense, of the scheme, the cadences, all those different things that Ezekiel Elliott would have, which some of that stuff still might be the same moving forward. But, I mean, in terms of him as a player, he had a brilliant early start to his career, but for one reason or another, ever since the contract, he's been, not so much. Yeah. Not a franchise running back, that's for certain.
It's, well, I mean, listen, you go to Mango Deck, and as you've clued me in on, you and Brady told me about Mango Deck.
I don't know anything about Mango Deck.
Well, I mean, I did a little bit of research on Mango Deck, and if I was going to hold out for a contract, it's right near the top of the list. I mean, that's the place to go if you're going to hold out for a contract. So maybe, he's still feeling some of the repercussions of some of those, parties at Mango Deck, and that's what's led to his decline since getting the contract. But at least he got the contract. The part that, and I know everybody understands that it's a business, and I know everybody understands that it's a lot going on here.
You're being distracted.
A lot going on. But I know that everybody understands it is a business, and these guys are going to do what's best for business. But it still is funny to me when players leave and go to a division rival the very next year.
I did.
Yeah, and I think...
And it was exactly for the same reasons, is that I wanted to stick it to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
I think that just the idea that, because we've seen this before, DeMarco Murray. Remember DeMarco Murray had that monster year with Dallas and wanted a new contract, and Dallas just was not going to give him the contract, and who did he sign with? Philly. And it didn't work out, and they put him in that scheme, and it probably wasn't the best scheme for him, and it just didn't pan out the way everybody thought it was going to be. But that had to partly be from Philadelphia's standpoint, we can stick it to Dallas, and from DeMarco Murray's standpoint, I can stick it to Dallas. And I think fans still get caught up in the fact of loyalty, and it's all about, the team you're currently on. And it doesn't mean that Zeke's not going to go back to Dallas one day and they're going to, maybe, who knows, put his number up in the Ring of Honor, which I don't see likely, but who knows? They're going to celebrate him, and he's always going to be a Dallas Cowboy. But in the moment, he's probably thinking to himself, F them. You don't think I can play? I wonder what his preference would be. If it's down to those 3 teams, I wonder if he would prefer to go to Philadelphia just to stick it to Dallas and all his friends over there, including Dak Prescott, which is one of his best friends.
I wonder if he has enough left in the tank where he could actually get in the type of shape where he could be as good as he was before. That would be curious if he came out and straight was just a different back than what he has been in years past in the last few years. You know, and then how do we interpret that?
So if he was never going to get motivated before, this is the offseason he gets motivated, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah, it seems like this is the off season that he would want to show everybody. Oh, you don't think I can play anymore? Watch this. But look, man, he's been in the league since 2016. I mean, it's not, everyone looks at the age, but the mileage, and Ohio State used him a lot when he was in college. He was the featured back the first portion of his career in Dallas. He had the 6-game suspension for the incident that took place where. He had a domestic dispute or something like that. So he got popped for 6 games his second year of the season. But other than that, I mean, he hasn't missed a lot of games. I mean, he's only missed 1 game in his career, and he started majority of those games. And the 1 game he missed was last year. It's just been a steady decline of his productivity. And I don't know if it was the offense or just he doesn't look like he had the same burst, because when Tony Pollard got in the games, it was a different looking running game than it was with Zeke Elliott. And I don't know what to chalk that up to, because it's not like offensive line was the issue. They weren't what they were when he got into the league, but Dallas still had a functional offensive line that could move people around. I just don't know what happened. Is it just this is part of the deal? He's a running back, and this is the way this goes, and this is the way this goes when you're a running back at 27 years old? Like, is that where we're at?
I don't know. I don't. I'm not sure, but I do know this. When a back's shelf life or when his expiration date seems to hit, that seems to be it. And usually you don't really see mid-level, type of guys. And when I say mid-level, you go from being elite to now you're okay for a long time and you just exist for a long time being okay. It's like either you're elite and you stay at a level of eliteness for a period of time, a long time, or it goes downhill. You fall off a cliff and you disappear. Guys like Emmitt Smith or Thurman Thomas, Jerome Bettis, Fred Taylor. You look at backs that have been elite backs. Eddie George, they were pretty elite for a long time. And then you get guys that, they came in and they got off to a really, really fast start, and then it fell off. And there's probably way more than those, and you could look them up and come up with a lot of names. I don't even know any that just pop off the top of my head.
You remember Chris Johnson? Chris Johnson got that monster contract from Tennessee, never the same. And he had a 2,000-yard year.
I mean, I don't recall the last part of his career, but I mean, like, at what point did he retire? Like, how many years did he make it through not being elite, you think?
Let me just off the top, I don't think he got to 30. Like, I'm almost positive he didn't get to 30. Like, just off the top of my head, looking back, I mean, I remember he got the big contract, or he finished out his career at 32, but he was just doing spot duty. Like, right. He wasn't. He rushed for over 1,200, over $2,000, over 1,300, over 1,000, over 12. Like, he was a 1,000-yard rusher every single year, including a 2,000-yard year, up to age 28, and then never sniffed it again.
Yeah, that's not bad though.
Oh, he finished
for back at
just
28.
Under 10,000
that's not
yards.
Bad. Yeah, that's not bad. I can think of. I mean, there are probably worse that we could. There's 100%. There's a different level of a guy coming in being
Todd Gurley.
That's a good one.
Todd Gurley is to me the comp when it comes to what Zeke is looking at, because, man, Todd Gurley was the offensive MVP of the league.
He was heading towards He was heading towards being, he had a Hall of Fame trajectory.
And then just fell apart. Like, it never just vanished. It was over. Like, 26, 27 years old, it was over. And no, like, he went to, Atlanta for a cup of coffee, and that was it. Yeah. It never just, it's just crazy to think.
And you kind of never heard from him again.
No, never, just kind of vanished. And we never also figured out what the injury was that he was dealing with, because a lot of people speculated, well, is it his knee injury? But we never really got the total explanation as to what was going on, because I remember I saw Todd Gurley play a game in college before his original knee injury, because he suffered a knee injury at Georgia. And I remember being at a South Carolina-Georgia game, and Todd Gurley was better than everybody else on the field. He broke off a run, and it was like he was playing with kids. I think people forget how good he was, and that was even after he suffered the knee injury, which to me just highlights what an incredible career Frank Gore had. Because what do you have, 3 knee injuries?
Yeah, he dealt with a lot.
And he's the third all-time leading rusher? Like, that's insane.
Like, Warwick Dunn broke through the 30-year mark. He broke through the 30. He made it 30, 31, 3-time Pro Bowler. You're talking about guys like Ricky Williams, Franco Harris, Fred Taylor, Curtis Martin, Thomas Jones, Tiki Barber, John Riggins, Tony Dorsett, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, and Walter Payton. Those are 30-year wall breakers. So that's a short list, man.
Yeah.
And you got to go way back. I mean, you got to go way back on that list. So it's not a position that is forgiving, and people know that it's a Warriors position. And now that it's being devalued at the way that it is, and it's kind of, in a way, tragically just going in a different direction, Jonas. I look at it now,
Let me ask you a question. Your kid comes to you. He's starting to play football. He says, Dad, I want to be a running back. What do you tell him?
Be a running back.
Okay. But he says, Dad, I want to go to the NFL. I want to have longevity, and I want to make a good living. I want to be a running back. Tell me you're not saying, have you thought about receiver? Have you thought about
But you got to understand, longevity and success to me comes as a person. Because that if you're good enough to do what Ezekiel Elliott has done, if you're good enough to do what a Derrick Henry has done, which my son would probably be a comp to Derrick Henry based off of his size, in real life, right? So I would say, don't you think that they did well? Like, you got that contract, you got in, you 100%. Got that contract, like, you're good.
Yeah.
Like, life is not over if you don't have a Hall of Fame NFL career. Life is not over if you're not considered to be one of the greats that played the position when you played it. Life is not, it doesn't begin and end with that.
Yeah.
So the success of it, Ezekiel Elliott has already won. Like, be clear. He's playing with house money at this point.